Hi everyone, Whitney here, assistant to Ryan Briggs with Anne Arundel Properties. Welcome to your July 2026 Anne Arundel County Real Estate Market Update. Before we get into our local numbers, let's start with what's happening across Maryland. July gave us another interesting look at where the housing market may be headed. After Maryland recorded its first year-over-year increase in home sales since January 2025 back in June of this year, it was interesting to see that July sales were essentially even with last year. A total of 6,328 homes sold statewide, compared to 6,337 in July of last year, a difference of just 0.1%. Prices, however, continued moving higher. Maryland's median sales price increased 2.2% to $455,000. While the average sales price rose 3.9% to $552,741. The biggest challenge continues to be housing supply. Maryland had 12.9% fewer active homes available than in July of 2025, and new listings fell by 18.5%. In fact, nearly 13,000 fewer homes came on the market during the first 7 months of 2026, compared with the same period last year. That's especially notable when we compare Maryland with the national market. Nationally, there was about a 4.6-month supply of existing homes, while Maryland had roughly 3 months of supply. So while the market appears to be stabilizing, Maryland buyers are still working with considerably fewer options. And we're seeing a very similar story right here in Anne Arundel County. Starting with units sold, 750 homes closed in July, compared to 751 in July 2025, meaning sales activity was virtually unchanged. Where we saw a much bigger movement was in prices. The average sales price climbed to $681,785, compared to $620,085 in July 2025, a significant 10% increase. The median sales price also rose considerably, reaching $553,500, compared to $505,000 in July 2025. That's an increase of 9.6%. Looking at median days on market, homes took 11 days to sell, compared to 9 days in July of last year, a 22.2% increase. That's a little more time for buyers to consider their options, but an 11-day median still tells us that desirable, appropriately priced homes aren't just sitting around for long. Next are new listings, and this is where our local numbers really reinforce the statewide story. Only 662 new properties came onto the market in July, compared to 819 in July of last year, a 19.2% decrease. For units pending or under contract, we saw 661 homes compared to 672 in July 2025, representing a modest 1.6% decrease. Active inventory reached 1,327 homes compared to 1,557 in July 2025. That's a 14.8% decrease, meaning buyers continue to have fewer available homes to choose from. Finally, months of inventory came in at 2.1 months, compared to 2.5 months in July 2025, a 16% decrease. So what's the bigger picture? July wasn't necessarily a story about more homes changing hands. Instead, it's about limited supply meeting persistent demand. Sales remained almost identical to July 2025, yet average and median prices rose substantially, while both active inventory and new listings declined. For homeowners considering selling, those numbers may create an interesting opportunity. And for buyers, they reinforce just how important preparation, patience, and the right strategy can be when inventory is limited. That's where experience matters. Ryan Briggs has more than 20 years of local real estate experience in Anne Arundel County, and he's helped buyers and sellers navigate everything from highly competitive markets to periods of major change. If you've been wondering what your home could sell for in today's market, considering making a move before the end of 2026, or trying to figure out the best strategy for buying with limited inventory, reach out to Ryan and start the conversation now. He can look at your specific situation and help you determine the smartest next step. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next month with another Anne Arundel County Market Update.